Hello and welcome to Ethereum Classic Community Call number 29. Today is Tuesday, the 18th of October, 2022. We've been hanging out in the green room 1 hour before this call, and from now on, for 1 hour before the call at 1400 hours UTC, you'll be able to join us every Tuesday in the Discord, Ethereum Classic Discord server. This chat happens every week on Tuesdays. Casual voice chat, discuss ideas, or etc. Everyone is welcome. You can join us at ethereumclassic.org/discord. In the community calls channel, you'll be able to ask questions and bring up topics via voice chat. This is an open discussion, so please feel free to jump in at any time. But be reminded this is live streaming on YouTube, so if you're on the mic, please turn off your sound notifications and keep it family friendly. You can also post messages in Discord or YouTube, and we'll try to get to them via the chats. You'll be able to find the agenda to the call in the description, which contains links to everything we talk about. So this week we have quite a nice agenda. We have ecosystem updates as usual, health check for the network. Hopefully Bob Sowell will be joining us. He's back from DevCon in Colombia. We have some exciting updates about the state of the Ethereum Classic Twitterverse, including updates to the Twitter Together initiative. We're going to discuss some interesting happenings on Ethereum mainnet that does affect Ethereum Classic, and it's to do with the MEV boost system, which is currently reaching 51% of blocks on Ethereum mainnet being OFAC compliant, which includes censoring certain transactions. We're going to chat about community call engagement and some potential things we could do there to help encourage people to get active in the community. And finally, we will be having some additional topics, potentially if we have time, including nomenclature about profitability and block rewards, some updates about what we can do with automation. And if Donald has time, maybe he can talk a bit about BitGold. And then finally, we will finish things off with the return of Bro Lau's market analysis at the end of the show to have a look at what's going on in the world of trading. So to start up, as it is tradition, we will say thanks to the people behind the scenes helping with the show. So first and foremost, Brother Lau, thanks for helping with the AV, getting the live stream sorted, to D_A for the graphics. And this week, I've been helped a lot by WeGo, especially with regards to getting the Twitter stuff sorted. So thanks to WeGo and everyone else that's been participating in the community this week. It's been quite a busy one. Before we jump into the main content of the show, I wanted to open the floor. If anyone new in the chat wants to say hello, feel free to do so. All right, let's move on to the ecosystem update. So first of all, some Discord updates. The off-topic channel is back. So if you're interested in some highly intellectual geopolitical discussion and mature commentary about the state of the world, then you can drop in the hashtag off-topic channel, which I'm sure you'll find interesting. This week, the Discord the Discord server was boosted. So there've been a few additional benefits, I believe. We have had a new server logo that is now animated and has returned to the previous logo. There's a bit of drama there, but that's sorted out. And I believe the invitation links have been updated. So we now have discord.gg/invite/Ethereum Classic. So you can invite your friends via that vanity URL. And I believe the call quality has the potential to be upgraded now to like super high quality calls, but it's not enabled for this call. So maybe next week you'll be hearing our voices in more clarity. There have been some announcements this week in the ecosystem world, and just a quick disclaimer, none of the following projects have been vetted. They are all, of course, potentially dodgy. I've not used them, but because they've been announced, I'd like to potentially amplify some things happening in the Ethereum Classic space. So please do your own research before investing anything in the blockchain space, and always follow the first rule: don't invest more than you can afford to lose. So we have Fusion by Nova Network, which is a fully fledged DeFi protocol. We have Hebe's ETC desktop client, now supports NFTs. ETC Landverse, which is a metaverse thing, implementation on ETC. Soteria is launching a DAO protocol. ZeusPay, ETC. And Donald had a new video out this week called ETC Monetary Policy Explained. So worth checking out. And if anyone else wants to promote any projects that they're looking at right now, feel free. Now's the time. Okay, so health check. Ethereum Classic's hash rate is sitting pretty and dominating 40% of the GPU market. It hasn't really budged at all since last week and is currently at 142 terahashes. That is 40% of the GPU mining profitability of all GPU mined blockchains. Coming close second is, well, not close second, but coming second is FW, the proof of work fork of Ethereum. Currently at 19%, probably should be close to zero. Then we have Raven, and then the project that will not be named. And the main topic on this agenda is that Bob is back. Straight out of Colombia, we have Top Pop from the Co-op, Bob Somerville. Thanks for joining us again. Are you available to voice chat, Bob? Okay, maybe Bob is only on listening mode at the moment, but we will go on to the next topic in the agenda, and hopefully he'll be able to join us on voice chat to talk about his adventures in South America. Before I move on, does anyone know about the benefits of boosting on the Discord server? Did I miss anything there? We go.
No, I think the benefits are pretty small. I think you have more data that you can transfer in the channels. You have the better sound quality, and then you have a background for the invitation link, and also a background in the left upper corner where the progression bar for the level. So now we can monitor it. Well, it was already available before to track it, but it was not activated. So we decided to do that so everyone can monitor. Because when you go under a level 3, you have 3 days to renew. So to add boosts so that we do not lose the vanity URL link and all the other benefits that go with it.
Okay, so yeah, I think if we can combine our efforts, we can maintain the top level, and there is some like tangible benefit to the community by keeping it up there, and it's not really too much of a bad deal. Okay, so let's dive into the first topic on the agenda. That is the new Twitter Together / hashtag ETC tweets initiative that has kind of evolved in the last week end, basically. So to bring people up to speed, we now have 2 repositories in the Ethereum Classic org GitHub, one called eth_classic and one called etc_network. they both represent Twitter accounts that are controlled by these repos. And basically through the GitHub approval process, tweets can be made via these to these accounts. We're currently in the early stages of figuring out how things are going to work, but we've already got some rules drafted for the main account, which is going to be primarily for essentially, okay, just sort of serious updates and things that people need to know about Ethereum Classic. For example, new clients, security updates, interesting, important events. And if you'd like to check out the rules, then please do so at tweets-eth_classic on the GitHub. And you can also give comments on the rules and potentially update them. We also have the etc_network Twitter account, which is going to be a lot less strict and posting all kind of things like memes and potentially more edgy stuff, basically. I had in mind the idea of having etc_network being like the edgier alter ego of the main account, and to keep a separation of, shall we say, keeping the main account dignified while the ETC network account being a little bit more engagement focused. So we're still kind of deciding what the rules are, but one of the things that we're using to try and help do that is also another element to this called the hashtag ETC tweets system. And basically, any tweet that's made on Twitter that includes hashtag ETC tweets, or one word, will be copied into the Discord ETC tweets channel. And we will have a look at those and copy some good ones and ignore some bad ones, and make tweets based on community contributions. So thanks to Seth McComrick for the idea of having some integration with Twitter itself, because otherwise it's pretty difficult for people to easily engage with this system. So yeah, thanks for that idea. We've already run into some kind of predictable problems. One being people abusing, well, not abusing, but just because there's no rules yet, people don't really know what kind of tweets are the kind of tweets that we'll be willing to accept. I think we're going to try and avoid, like, shall we say, shameless promotion of projects. Ideally focusing on Ethereum Classic network itself, as opposed to any odd, like, new NFT project, for example. And if we do link to projects, they'll probably be via the website, so the disclaimer's visible. There's still ongoing debate about what exactly the rules are going to look like, but if anyone would like to comment on what kind of tweets we should be tweeting on both of these accounts, then please jump in.
I'm interested if ETC network would also publish charts, trading charts.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I would say that even the main account, if, for example, the price of ETC went up 10x in a day, then that's significant information that people would want to see. So it really depends on the chart. Yeah, I think it's going to be difficult to have a hard set rule of what is considered interesting, but we'll have to play it by ear.
I think it's a good idea to separate ETH Classic from ETH Network and the content. I think I have a echo or something. And yes, on ETH Network, if it's going to be more edgy, put trading ideas and all that, and price pumping information, stuff like that, because that is very engaging. Also politics, like statements like against the Federal Reserve, against regulation by the SEC, against OFAC. and all that censoring that is happening in Ethereum, all those things I would put on ETC network.
Yeah, I think the keyword there is engagement, and it would be, I guess, the overall goal to try and get us eventually up to the same amount of followers in the future that we had before on both accounts, ideally. So just for the technical side of things, right now, the eth_network GitHub account requires one approval, and at the moment, mostly me and Rigo have been sort of beta testing this. But we have a bunch of new volunteers that have signed up to help also approve tweets. On the main eth_classic account, that requires 2 approvals, so tweets will be a little bit more strictly monitored there. In terms of spam, we will probably, if it becomes a problem, well, first of all, we will try and like specify some more clear guidance of what tweets are likely to be approved in the GitHub repo for both Twitter accounts. And then if the hashtag gets spammed too much, then we will probably set some kind of limit so that only one tweet per day, for example, comes through into the Discord. So that will kind of rations people of how many times they can submit tweets.
Can it be filtered on one suggestion per account?
Yep. We have so what's going on in the background is using some automation, kind of like a if then ITTT thing, which allows for almost limitless levels of filtering and customization and hooking into different services. So we can really get a lot of customization in terms of what comes in and how we filter stuff. But yeah, this is an open process. You can see everything happening on GitHub. So if you'd like to join in and help decide what gets tweeted, then please reach out and post in the hashtag Twitter Together channel. We're in particular looking for volunteers that are outside of the EU-US time zone. I think we have most of the world covered, but it can be difficult to find enough approvers to get stuff done when most of the world is asleep, or most of the Western world is asleep. And finally, I'd just like to thank the instigators of the recent Twitter drama for stirring us into action on this. And this is kind of the nice thing about ETC as an ecosystem. When we get beat down, we punch back in some way, in a non-violent way. I can see, Bob, that you're back without your mute button. Are you able to have a chat right now?
I think he's speaking, but...
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, we got you.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Hey, Bob.
Hello,
welcome
sorry,
back.
yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, for some reason my computer is just not working at all for these voice calls. But my phone seems to be. So, hello.
Hello, thanks for joining us, and welcome back from Colombia.
Thank you. Yeah, my first time there. Beautiful city.
Yeah. How was is it Batoga?
Pronunciation?
Yeah.
Bottega. No, is it? Now you've made me not be able to say it. Bogota. That's it.
Okay. How is Bogota as a venue for a conference? I was kind of surprised at the choice, but it seems like people enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, I mean, it worked out great. You know, there were various people ahead of time saying, you know, there was a lot of crime. You know, you've got to watch out for yourself. Don't travel on your own. You know, don't have flashy clothes or anything to draw attention to yourself. But yeah, I mean, I only heard one story of somebody trying to get their phone snatched and it failed, dropped on the floor. But yeah, beautiful city. Settled with high mountains around it. One of them with a sort of a monastery place. You can go up to the top on a funicular railway and have a look down. Lots of really good sort of graffiti art around. Very, very colourful. And yeah, the venue was great. Very, very modern conference centre over 5 or 6 floors. There were about 7,000 people I heard who were there. So biggest one yet. Lots of content of all kinds. Specifically also sort of Latin American local content as well, themes of how crypto can help that whole area. But yeah, it was fun, a lot of fun. And I got to meet Isaac. I got to meet Isaac and Chris and Diego all at the same time. We've never all been in the same place. And I'd never met Chris in person either.
And no bus incidents, luckily.
No, we didn't all die, so that was good.
Even more than that. Did you notice the on the whole for the conference? Given your past experience at other conferences, have you noticed a shift in the culture of the Ethereum mainnet world? I guess with all that's happened, it's the first one since COVID, and a lot's happened since the last one. So is there a significant change in tone?
Well, not so much. I mean, I guess with so many people and it hadn't been so long, I'm sure that there were a very large number of people who it was the first time that they'd ever been to one. Many people new to blockchain and crypto entirely over that span. With that many people, a lot of them were fans and users rather than doers or people necessarily working full-time or heavily involved. The other thing that you always have at DEF CON over other conferences is it's developer conference, right? So it a lot of the talks were technical talks in some form. You do have a few that are sort of more overviewy, not shallow, but more general and not deeply technical. But there were many sessions, which are really kind of digging in deep to particular technical details. Like, for example, there were a whole load of zero knowledge sessions and talking about ZK EVM or ZK rollups or some deeper zero knowledge technical stuff. So yeah, I mean, what I'd say is anyone who is interested, all of the videos are up on YouTube now. I think every single room had got recording in it, so I think all of the sessions should be there, and that is likely I don't know, 200-300 of them maybe. Tons and tons of content, usually fairly short. The longest talks I think were about 25 minutes. There were some as short as 7, where they had a whole bunch of them in a row, bang bang bang. There were longer workshops as well on some topics that could be an hour, 2 hours, even 2.5. Not sure if all of those were recorded, maybe not. Some of those were off in kind of side rooms. But yeah, lots and lots of different themes. Not a lot of love for proof of work there, that's for sure. Lots of rejoicing that the merge had gone through smoothly, and then discussions about next steps. So to my knowledge, the priority for the next Ethereum hard fork is the introduction of the withdrawal contract. Everyone who's staked on F2 at the moment, their money's just stuck in there. There's no means of getting it back out. So a withdrawal contract is going to be added, though I hear that would be rate limited, so not everyone can rush out at the same kind of time. The things that to me are the most interesting in terms of proposed changes, and which I really want to see if we can help at the co-op to help these things happen quicker, get engaged and involved, are all of the changes around the EVM. So specifically, there is a proposal called EOF, which is EVM object format. So it's kind of like a wrapping, almost like a file format around EVM binaries, so that you can have a versioned wrapper, really, where this wrapper is identifying an EVM versioning, and then also within that EOF format that you can have clean separation of code and data, and then that is also the mechanism that lets you start making changes and improvements to the EVM without breaking that backwards compatibility. So notably, looking to do functions or subroutines as a first class thing, where at the moment in the EVM you've got really kind of awkward pushing things onto the stack, jumping and then coming back. So it's kind of simulated a feature that has been present in all CPUs and virtual machines for 50 years. It's just missing a very basic part. The other one is static jumps rather than dynamic jumps. So static meaning that you're just going to have a jump relative to where you are with an offset. All of the jumps at the moment in the EVM, like with subroutines, are dynamic, pushing things onto the stack, doing an opcode and coming back. So both those two changes together, what those result in is bytecode, which you can do really good static analysis on before running, making sure that you can't jump off to crazy places, or also that can really help the optimizer. So one of the examples that Greg Colvin had, the same code ended up being something like a third of the size, and much clearer when you're looking at it to understand what it's doing. So yeah, those EVM changes I think are really great changes, which really mean that your EVM stuff can be a lot smaller. It can be faster. It uses less gas, and it's more easier for analysis and sort of security checks. So I mean, those are all really great things that make a lot of sense on the ECC side as Ethereum. We've also been looking at the Aragon client. Aragon was previously called TurboGaf, and basically does some very major changes in its internal data structures. So there's no protocol change. It's just, a next generation client which is taking advantage of everything that we've learned over 8 years. to do something which is, again, better, smaller, faster, and so on. There's another category of change planned for Ethereum, which also makes a lot of sense for us, I think, which is Verkle trees. So Verkle trees would be a replacement for the existing Patricia Merkle trees that we have. The problem that there is with Patricia Merkle trees is that as state grows, you end up getting very, very sort of random access all over them. And that is slow. Like random access into data structures means, you can't have any kind of useful caching if they are structures which end up being within databases on disk and you're accessing them again. You're jumping all over the place. Lots and lots of touches. So Verkle trees, I can't really adequately explain them here. I can't really adequately explain them anyway. I need to read a lot more. But essentially what you would have with a switch to Verkle trees is something which would be a little bit like Aragon, analogous. It's not the same thing, but it's a thing that's analogous to Aragon in saying, well, hey, if we use a completely different way of representing these, it's going to have significantly better performance characteristics and space usage and so on. So again, it's the experience of 8 years worth of work where Ethereum started out, really as sort of a bit of a science project gone live, and we've learnt a lot on the way. The complication that you have with Verkle trees, though, is how that transition is going to happen, because you couldn't have both of them in a client at the same time. You effectively need to have some transition point where the current state is sort of like snapshotted and this new data structure with the same stuff would be rebuilt, and then the client is using the new stuff. But building, because of the state of the existing state is so huge, the process of generating that new data structure is something that could take 6 hours or something stupid. So do you sort of pause the network to do this? Do you have particular clients are doing this locally and each themselves getting stuck? The network is still kind of moving, but when you hit this horror block, you have a huge switchover. Do you do that? Do you have this stuff kind of done offline and you're downloading it, everyone's downloading it, so that you basically you get to that point and you've almost reset the client? That's a little bit unclear, but the benefits are huge if we can do it. So yeah, those were some interesting protocol thoughts. Lots of stuff about privacy, thoughts on privacy, lots and lots of L2s, getting real serious traffic now. And because those L2s are not necessarily tied to be entirely compatible with mainnet, people are experimenting a bit with different EVM variants. There are even, I think, some L2s that don't even use the EVM at all. They're doing something completely different. Darknet seems to be coming on well. That's another ZK-based one. I even saw there was one thing about an L3. So L3 is starting to arrive there. But yeah, anyway, that's enough of a talk for me for now.
Super interesting. And thanks for the update. It sounds like a lot, well, almost all of the content that is is not about the chain itself. Anything that's EVM compatible is doable on ETC as well. So it's awesome that a lot of innovation is actually happening on Ethereum Classic, even if indirectly.
Yeah. And I think the thing that's really great with that, the breadth of different L2s there are on Ethereum, is that there's lots of well-funded teams there trying this stuff out, you know, and learning, you know. So some of these new pieces, you know, it takes a long time to get them right. So you've got lots of teams that are really exploring all of this space and seeing what works and what doesn't work. And, you know, the stuff that doesn't work is going to drop away. But as you say, you know, all of the patterns that work out really well, you know, they're all going to be directly applicable to ETC. And, you know, we're certainly not in a position yet where we really need any L2s. You know, we've got plenty of space left on ETC. But then, yeah, when we do come to need L2s, you know, they're already very mature. So that's great. You know, we did at the co-op funder a Connext instance, so that was an L2 stake channel. I think that was back in 2019 or early 2020. But you know, it didn't really get any use, but showed that, you know, we can certainly host any of this stuff. The other thing that was really valuable there, I think, was is just the personal connections. You know, that's something I always love at the conferences, is having an opportunity to meet people who, you know, you've only interacted with over Twitter or over email. And a really key thing that happened was I was able to get to connect the core devs with the actual Geth team. So historically, there was, you know, some real tension there because of what had happened with Classic Geth. You know, that at the time of the fork, Igor had intentionally forked Classic Geth away from fork and not, you know, had not kept contact, was not, you know, taking changes from the Geth team as they happened. Indeed, it was very much, you know, like, fuck you, Geth team, fuck you, Ethereum Foundation, we don't need you, you know, we're going to go and do our own thing. Which I think was very short-sighted, because the Geth team are very, very competent. And, you know, they have done huge amounts of ongoing work for optimization and improvements through the years. You know, that decision or that direction was changed by Way with multi-Geth, and then by Labs with core Geth. So, you know, that is staying very close to Geth now, but we haven't really had the human connections to be able to make that, you know, a real productive collaboration. But yeah, you know, we made those in Bogota, and Chris and Isaac, you know, spending time with people on the Geth team and working out. For example, Chris has done a whole load of work adding parity style tracing to core Geth, which was never in the Geth upstream, but then now has met the guy working on tracing within the Geth team, and you know, the two of those can collaborate and make sure that, you know, the changes and improvements that we've done can hopefully get back into upstream Geth. And areas like, you know, these EVM improvements or Verkle trees or anything, you know, we're in a position where we can really try to help accelerate some of these things happening. You know, if the Geth team themselves are busy, well, that's okay. You know, we can do some of that work, and also because we do the Bezu developments as well, we're in the position where, you know, we can do cross-client testing. You know, we can do 2 implementations. We can do a test net. We can work on the spec. You know, so any of these improvements, you know, we're not necessarily having to be in a sort of a secondary position. You know, we can really step up and help drive some of these things. I don't know that we would want to go ahead of Ethereum necessarily on some of these features. The reason being, if we went first and then Ethereum are kind of looking at what we've done, but then decide, that's not quite right. We could improve that a little bit, and then come out with an incompatible version of the same feature. Then we're obviously in a bad place if that happens. So we're probably not going to lead, but we can lead in terms of the development. It's just we don't necessarily want to deploy first, because I guess that leaves you in a position a bit like what happened with Keccak 256, right? Where Ethereum started using it before it was quite blessed as SHA-3, and then you end up with using a slightly incompatible or different version of a standard, which sucks. But yeah, great to get those connections. Also, we were able to link up with Dmitry Volkov, who works on the cross-client tests. So github.com Ethereum tests. So those tests are used for cross-client testing for Ethereum, and we've been using them on ETC as well for several years. So Isaac was very pleased to meet him. So I was like, "Thanks, we've been using your tests for years and years, and get to meet you." But yeah, the guys specifically wanted to do a better kind of set of those for the ETC specific things, but it wasn't exactly clear how to configure that or how to use them. But yeah, Chris Diego and Isaac got to sit down with Dimitri for a good hour or so, I think, and really batter through all of that. So that was great. Another team I got to meet there was DAppNode. I don't know if you guys know what DAppNode is. So DAppNode is so it's running your own node, right? So it's an Intel NUC kind of like mini PC. So kind of like a Raspberry Pi, but more performant. So with DAppNode, you basically get like a standalone run your node at home in a node in a box basically. And on that they will install. They've got an image there with all of the clients that in there, I think. And it is intended to be plug in and go pretty much. You just configuring Wi-Fi and setting up your wallet and what have you. Anyway, DAppNode had ETC support in 2019. It was funny, I remember at the time, it was around the time of the ETC summit, and they just did it. We'd not had any kind of conversation or anything. They just tweeted out one day, "Hey, ETC support on DAppNode." In the meantime, that sort of withered away for whatever reason. I think essentially because at that time, it was just myself and Yaz at the co-op, and client development was done elsewhere. So we weren't really in a position to be able to release and bundle and do whatever they needed for their integrations. All of that has changed in the meantime, though. They now have kind of almost like auto releases. That they have some automation that is looking at the release folders of the clients that they support, and when a new release comes out, this automated process will essentially make a Docker image that gets uploaded to IPFS, and it will generate also I believe there's a smart contract which points to the latest image to use. So I believe it will generate you a pull request that would update to the new one. And what you're doing as a development team is essentially testing against that new image. And then when it's good to go, you're flipping the switch. So it may be a pull request, it may be a raw transaction. I'm not exactly sure. Anyway, got speaking to them, and we're gonna have first class ETC support in that soon. So that would mean they would be basically taking that on. We would just be doing the testing. So as there are Bezu and Core Geth releases, when those have happened, there would just be a further phase of testing that we need to do, which is testing, on that DAP node hardware against that generated Docker image. So that's what we'll be doing soon. So yeah, you'll be able to do that plug and play node at home for ECC, and we might even try and do some special editions with them. Their business really is that they're selling that hardware, which is just available. You can just go and buy an Intel NUC, or it doesn't even have to be a NUC. Even it's just an x86. You can run their images on your own machine as well. There's no magic sauce in any of this. It's just convenience of buying the bundle off them. And then, yeah, they do sometimes do these special editions where they will, here's an ETC one with the logo on it and green imaging and probably like pre-configured so that running that particular client or platform is like the default. So yeah, that was a great conversation. Looking forward to that.
Love to get my hands on one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome to hear all this I guess community building going on between the two projects, because yeah, on a tech level, I mean, we are the same project really, and it's just kind of heartwarming to see that despite philosophical differences, people can still join forces.
Yeah. And I mean, I think the other thing that's been really positive for us in that aspect is because the way that proof of stake transition ended up happening in the end, where the Beacon chain was launched, ran for 18 months, and then you have this sort of switchover where what's now called execution clients, but previously Ethereum 1 clients, just that at that certain point that they end up, talking to a Beacon chain for their consensus. So it didn't look like that was going to be the flow early on. When the Beacon chain was launched, that was like phase 0 of the transition. So it's like, right, phase 0 is you've got this proof of stake chain running. It's not doing anything other than coming to consensus itself. But let's test that consensus and that the comms are working and everything, and if people are doing wrong attestations that they can get slashed and so on. So that was like described as phase 0. Phase 1 was adding sharding into that, but the shards would only be data. There would be no execution on them. They're just carrying data. And then phase 2 was the addition of execution onto those shards, with the talk at the time being, well, maybe you have execution environments, plural. So those particular shards, they might be EVM or they might be EWASM. There was years worth of work on trying to do an Ethereum variant of WASM that you see in all browsers now. So that was sort of the original plan, with no real clarity on what the migration path would be for existing apps, other than like maybe Shard 0 has got an EVM on it and is basically just like a copy or continuation of the existing chain. So that was sort of the original thought on that. And then on the ECC side, it's like, well, what the hell does that mean for us? Does Geth end? At that transition point, it's like, yep, Geth is finished. You've got these new clients for Ethereum 2, and that's where things are happening. And if that had been the case, then yeah, like it's on us to fully maintain all of these clients. you know, with the Ethereum ecosystem not contributing any of the effort to it. So if that had happened, that would have been, you know, that would have been really, really hard, you know. Doing development on clients that are mainly there already is, you know, it's orders of magnitude easier than having the whole responsibility of both maintaining what you have, but also, you know, defining future roadmap. But yeah, with the split in the way that the merge did happen, which was essentially that the beacon chain launched, and then at this transition point, you just have the existing clients rather than having the proof of work embedded within that monolithic executable. Instead, they are, you know, they've got API where they're reaching out to the beacon chain to have that. So I mean, what that means on the Geth side, for example, is just a fairly tiny bit of code, basically saying, you know, if we're past that transition point, then do this, else do POW. So that means that yeah, you have very little difference between an Ethereum only client and an ETC client. On Bezu, that's truly the case, in that the work that we're doing is directly in the upstream. You know, there isn't an ETC fork of Bezu. Bezu just supports Ethereum and Ethereum Classic and various other, you know, for example, proof of authority scenarios for test nets, or other consensus for enterprise scenarios. So yeah, that's all good, because it means even though you've got, you know, this proof of stake, proof of work difference, and then other things coming in later, the code is still the same. You know, you can have a client that supports all of these scenarios. So, you know, we're not off in the wilderness doing something really quite different. We're very technically aligned with the exceptions of you know, obviously like the DAO fork and not having difficulty bomb and still doing mining and a fixed monetary policy, but you know, the vast majority of the code is very common. So yeah, we can very easily collaborate technically, even given the differences in the chains.
Yeah, that's super important, and I guess something that I overlooked in terms of how the merge actually unfolded, and it's going to mean it really brings like some long-term potential to Ethereum Classic, because there's way less work involved in long-term maintenance in that case. And as you mentioned earlier, we can let Ethereum mainnet set the standard and just sort of follow behind with as little effort as possible for as long as possible.
Yeah. And yeah, and I think, you know, that we're in a good position where you know, the developers doing that work can be you know, collegial and friendly relationship. You know, that doesn't have to be at all adversarial. We can collaborate very cleanly there. And as I was saying, you know, not necessarily just following, you know, that we can help drive those things which are not, you know, are not within that Ethereum spec yet. You know, we can help move things forward faster than they would perhaps without that assistance.
Right. Well, it seems you've gone down to South America and brought back a treasure trove of really good news for Ethereum Classic, and yeah, this is tons of awesome initiatives that might be coming down the pipeline soon. I noticed that you also made a comment on Discord about looking at the next steps for ETC related to the grants program with Ant. Was it Antminer that they invested?
Antpool, yeah.
Antpool, sorry. And you have some pretty good ideas of what might make the grade in terms of next steps on the roadmap. I'm not sure whether you're at the point to make any comments about that right now, but
not specifically, but my thought there really is that people have repeatedly asked, well, hey, what's the roadmap for ECC? What's happening? What's new? What's exciting? And often, we haven't really had a good answer. It's like, well, yeah, maybe we're looking at this, maybe we're looking at that, but there hasn't really been a consensus view on, yes, we are looking to do X, Y, and Z. So lots of more centralized chains have obviously got a very clear roadmap, because they are determining exactly the direction and doing the work, and it's just sort of a single body doing all of that. Obviously, we don't have that on ECC, but yeah, I think coming out of that conference and then other things that we've had happen over the last few months and so on really made me think, well, for the co-op, all of our planning and budget and everything is done on year boundaries. So we've got retrospective of the previous year, future facing roadmap, budgeting, planning, all that. And it just made me think, well, maybe we can do that for the whole of ECC together this year as well, collaboratively, that we can look across these prospective ideas, and some of them are protocol work for the client devs, but others are stuff like with the Twitter and the website, and the Discord, or application layer. What sort of things would we like to see on that DApp layer. So I just thought, well, maybe what we can do is get to sort of like a rough collaborative agreed sort of planned roadmap for the next year, so that heading into 2023, we can have some clear kind of like, this is what we would hope to see over Q1, Q2, Q2, 3 and 4. I mean, obviously, it's not like, hey, this is definitely going to happen. But I think, or I'd like to think, that we can probably get to, a list of priorities that we all kind of agree would be good things to shoot and aim for. And yeah, where that comes into the grants program is like, I really am hopeful that we can get the grants program started this calendar year. So then potentially we can have that tied in right to that roadmap of saying, well, hey, this is the sort of things that we would like to see happen. And hey, here's the grants program. So if any groups would like to take on any of these tasks, these are things which would be, very well received within a grants program. So yeah, I'd like to think we can do that, and that would be a real kind of productive and feel good thing for everyone in the community, of seeing, well, hey, there is some, we've got a plan, we've got a direction, as opposed to previous years. And it's like, well, hey, there's some EIPs to, maybe we can do this, maybe we can do that. But, many of those turned into divisive, non-productive conversations. But I think we can have quite a different flavour for 2023 if we'd really try. And I think at least a part of that is looking at these, things like the EVM improvements and Verkle trees and Aragon. None of that is very controversial. They're all pretty much direct performance upgrades. And I think having come through the merge and being in a position where we've now got this large majority hash within our, within the hardware class, and probably quite ASIC dominated, I think we can say, well, we're probably not going to do anything on that mining algo side ever, or not for a very long time. So it's really more down to sustainability things. You know, if we're cool on where we are on the mining and the proof of work, and if we're not looking to do L1 scaling, which I don't think we are, you know, we do L2s, then it's really just down to that performance. You know, being able to cope with the state that the size it is, you know, which has been referred to as bloat. So I don't know that there's much we can do about the growth necessarily, but we can be in a better position for the software to be able to deal with the state that we do have. Yeah, I think there's probably some countermeasures that can still happen against gas token or things which are blatantly bloating. But if generally we're in a position of saying, well, look, you know, ETC's kind of as a protocol, you know, it's kind of nearly done. We're really just looking at those sustainability things. You know, I think that's a great place to be in terms of cohesion and direction for the community. You know, saying, well, we've got these a few, you know, hard and big, but not very changing the essence of it very much or changing things for the users. And then we're focusing up the stack. You know, if we've got this grants program, and then we're more focusing on, you know, on infrastructure, on DApp building blocks. You know, for example, well, hey, you know, repeatedly people have said, you know, we could do with a native stable coin, we could do with lending protocols, you know, liquidity pools, market making, you know, marketplaces for NFTs, DEXs, you know, all of the richness that you see within Ethereum or other, you know, very well funded L1 ecosystems. You know, if we can be moving past that protocol level and really looking at those, you know, constructing things which are useful for users, you know, that we can bring people in because we've got actually useful projects happening. You know, I think that'd be awesome.
Yeah, it really feels like the project as a whole has kind of been crawling through the mud of drama and various attacks, 51% attacks, social attacks and stuff, and now we've come out at the end of that trench, and now, like, there's nothing really that's gonna go bad, it seems. And yeah, it'd be really nice to see an initiative, as you mentioned, potentially outside the ECIP process, where I mean, I was thinking maybe just have like a big list of everything that could be done on ETC, and anyone can contribute to it, and just narrow it down to the things that, yeah, this seems like a no-brainer. And yeah, having something that collaboratively everyone can work on together would be a real uniter for the community and like a morale booster after all this craziness that's gone on, and take advantage of the really good position that we're in right now. So yeah, I hope to see that coming soon.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you know, an effective grants program can be a real easy way to break the chicken and an egg situation. You know, of saying, well, you know, to get more users, you've got to have more useful dApps. But people don't want to build the dApps if you haven't got enough users because it isn't worth their effort. So, you know, I think the grants can help build up some of those basic, you know, basic requirements that make it both easy to build things because you know you've got this ready-made basis, but also just that having some more on that side itself does draw in users, even if, you know, those aren't like, you know, profit-making things. You know, they're just public goods, really. But that, you know, that I think can start pulling in enough users that you're getting closer to the place where you know, that developers can say, well, hey, yeah, you know, we should, because there's users who'll use the stuff, and you know, we can get fees and make some money.
Yeah, it's going to be well, if it works out as planned, it'll be like a domino effect, a snowball effect. Once you get some stable coins, you get some dexes, then everything's just going to come flowing in.
I hope so.
Yeah. Are you okay for time, Bob? I want to.
Not great, mate. I'm going to be around another 10 minutes, maybe.
Okay. In that case, I wanted to just let anyone else in the chat. If you had any questions, you can jump in now. So I'm not dominating the whole thing.
Yeah, I would like to ask a question to Bob about how the since that the transition is made, like the merge to pause, how there are some people who were working on the proof of work algorithm, if they are interested in contributing to the ETC ecosystem. What's the general statement there?
Which people, sorry?
The people who were previously working on the proof of work algorithm on Ethereum.
Well, nobody's been working on that. It was done like 8 years ago and hasn't really changed.
Okay.
If there's no one else, I just wanted to go to that last bit of drama. And I know you tweeted about this, about potentially having a call with the Ergo people. Did that happen? And did you have any reflections on that whole drama, as we haven't heard you talk about it?
So I had a series of conversations with Armianio, who is one of the Ergo Foundation directors. So yeah, I had quite a long conversation with him over a couple of days on Discord. Where that sat was, he was hoping actually himself to have a call with Charles this weekend, just gone. I'm not sure if that happened yet. I haven't spoken to him since. We were aiming to set up a call with myself and a broader set of Ergo Foundation people this week. Maybe next week now, where we're kind of well, no, it's only Tuesday, maybe not. I mean, I think the difficulty there is that, you know, they've been put in this situation by Charles as well, right? You know, they didn't ask for this. I don't think they were really fully aware of the situation with it when it was given to them, you know. So he himself, for example, tweeted, well, you know, what a great friend Charles is to have, and you know, he built this up himself and then has given it to us, and you know, what a gift, kind of thing. You know, often, obviously, like in retrospect, maybe not feeling so clever about that tweet. But yeah, you know, they've had some, you know, some conflict within their own community about this, you know, with people saying, well, hey, you know, I thought we were really special and different and ethical, and why are we taking this? From Ergo's side, I think it's exceedingly unlikely that they would give it to us, essentially because it was Charles who gave it to them. You know, I think if they were doing anything and saying, well, you know, this was not a good gift, it would be to give it back to him. You know, I think that's their most rational move. Obviously doesn't put us in any better place, but you know, it would get them out of their mess, and I think it would be a rational thing to do. The other thing in all of this is terms of service. I think there's been a clear breach of terms of service in what has happened here. I've been trying to reach out to Twitter. The problem is the only means that you have of any of this stuff with Twitter is their forms. There are the forms that you can open up. Same sort of thing as, if you were just making a report of a cloned account or what have you. So there's just these forms that you fill in, and you may or may not ever hear back from them, even let alone get the resolution that you'd like. So I haven't been able to get anything back for them. So I think what I'm going to need to do there is actually write a physical letter and post it to Twitter. So that's what I'll be doing, probably with the assistance of lawyers. So it would be, a lawyer's letter to Twitter, basically highlighting the history and what's happened. In terms of maybe outcomes for that, I'd see, I guess, 3 possibilities. First one would be that, it is given back to us. I think that's very unlikely from Twitter, though, really, because usually if you have that kind of reassignment, it would be because there is a very clear, legal entity with a trademark, that blatantly is the entity that should control that account. That we don't have that on ETC, nothing is official on ETC, right? So no particular party has any more or less claim to any ETC based account than anyone else. A second possibility, though, on that, possibly, just maybe, would be that the Ethereum Foundation have the trademark on Ethereum. So it's maybe not too much of a push to say, well, hey, this account should sit with the Ethereum Foundation because they do have the trademark, and then maybe they could give it back to us. I think there's a very vague possibility that would be a kind of a possible path. But I think the thing that's most likely is terms of service violation. Yes, we agree, so the account is shut down. And that would certainly be better than the current reality of it, basically being in rogue hands. But, the outcome really in all of these, bar that very vague possibility that it would come back to us, either through the Ethereum Foundation or somehow some magic happening within Ergo and Charles that somehow, turns into a resolution. But I think the most likely thing is just that, it's going to get shut down and lost, but at least it's not in enemy hands, and we have to rebuild. I mean, with all of these scenarios, we have to rebuild. That's the most important thing. And I think that with Twitter together, in the same way as we already have the ECIPs and for the website, that GitHub flow, I think is a really good place where anyone can contribute. Yes, you've got sort of the gatekeepers in terms of the reviews, but nobody is on a higher or better position than anyone else. It is a duocracy, and from the co-op side, I'm very happy with that as well, that we're sort of in a position where we can contribute in using those same flows, and if we can produce good quality content, then a fair bit of it will go through. But we're not in any privileged position, so I think that's really good. Just also to talk on something else, there was that I had budget this year for communications, community marketing kind of person to replace Kevin. I commissioned a report on sort of the situation that we have at the moment and within ETC as a whole, to basically ask a comms focused group, which is MMH Group, who are people who've been involved in crypto for a long time. I know Emma Todd, who's the CEO there, very well. Anyway, they've recently done this report, and the follow-up that I'm just in the middle of executing on now are that we have got now, or very soon we'll have next few days, a part-time communications and marketing manager, and also a social media person. Also, Donald should be doing some writing for us. So very soon we will have, a comms and marketing and community team at the co-op who, we can obviously do things through our own channels. We'll be doing a revamp of our own website, and revamp of what we're doing with our Twitter account and mailing list and so on. But also we'll be in a position to, to have boots on the ground to, actively participate and assist on that website side, on the Twitter side, YouTube videos, tutorials, any of that sort of stuff. And then the other thing I want to do there is translations. I think we need Chinese everything, basically. So I want to see if we can essentially have a translator sort of on retainer who can help with translations of the website, maybe help with these Chinese language channels like the Telegram and the WeChat, but also Chinese mailing list, any of that sort of stuff. So all of that should be coming fairly soon, which I think is all pretty exciting as well.
Yeah, very, very cool, and more good news. I'm really glad that you've been able to update us with this wonderful information. Just a point on the potential scenarios of the Twitter account. It would be a shame if the account got deleted purely for the fact that all of the Twitter history and the lore of ETC is lost in the process. So hopefully there's some archives available that we can still point to if needed to.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure. That somebody was mentioning the possibility of something which would kind of like replay all of those onto another account. I'm not sure what there is, but I would hope that there's something that can be done for that, certainly. But yeah, I mean, essentially the whole thing is very damaging.
Yes, well, you've been very generous with your time, Bob, and I'm aware you said 10 minutes, more than 10 minutes ago, so unless there's anything you wanted to finish on, we will let you go, and big thank you.
No worries. So yeah, I'll be listening in for a little bit, but probably can't reply. So cheers, everyone.
All right, thanks, Bob. Take care. Okay, and we are over the hour. I still have time to continue. If anyone wanted to add anything to that discussion or reflections on all of that awesome news, feel free to jump in. And I was just looking over at the YouTube, and there's a question from Tom saying, "Hello ETC. Last week's call, someone mentioned the need for moderators, reviewing community tweets, discussion, etc. on Twitter. Is ETC still looking for assistance?" Well, the ETC itself, there is nothing official, but the community Discord server and one of the GitHub accounts, Ethereum Classic GitHub account, yes, indeed, is looking for assistance in helping with moderation of tweets and stuff, especially if you're in the Asia or non-US EU time zones. Sorry, let me be clear. If you're in the non-US or non-EU time zones and are able, or you're a night owl and you can help with round-the-clock tweeting moderation, then we could definitely use your help. And you can reach out to us in the hashtag Twitter-together Ethereum Classic Discord server channel. if you'd like to help volunteer there. And I think that covers all the questions from the chats. We had some comments from Bob saying that we might consider changing the software used for these calls. So we'll look into that and maybe use a different platform, but we will see how things go on that front. And as usual, we will end the chat with the opportunity for anyone in the voice chat to say anything they want. The floor's open. I'll leave it for a few seconds. Jump in now. All right, so thank you for joining the call. It's been a very, well, full of extremely uplifting information, and thanks especially to Bob, but of course all the other contributors that have helped make this call happen. And we will see you at the same time next week, ETC Discord. And if you'd like to join us offline 1 hour earlier, you can join us at 1400 hours UTC, and we go live at 1500 hours UTC. So see you next Tuesday. Till then, take care and stay classy. Bye-bye.